Super excited to be here. As he said, my name's Max Bennett, co-founder, head of product at Bluecore. And I'm going to give you a little bit of context on my view as to where e-commerce is going. So for a little bit of context on Bluecore, we were founded 3.5 years ago. We are a decisioning platform for commerce. I will describe what that means in a little bit. We have over 115 employees now. There are 300 plus of the largest retailers on the planet as our clients. That includes Nike, Gap, Staples, CVS, and others. And we've raised over $25 million in venture capital. In terms of growth, we are actually growing faster than some of the biggest technology companies in our category, broadly defined as enterprise software. All of these companies are now valued at over $1 billion. And the reason I show this is because it begs the question, what are we working on in commerce that's facilitating this kind of growth? So a good place to start is, what is e-commerce and who cares? So e-commerce, unlike a lot of the stuff that we've seen here today, is actually not a product. E-commerce simply describes a different mechanism for conducting commerce or transacting. So commerce broadly is really just how we get the stuff we need to us. So a lot of people think about commerce as the very simple transaction of, I have some cash or value, and I'm going to provision it to a producer, and a producer is going to give me a good. That's actually a vastly oversimplified model of what commerce is. So commerce actually is a very, very complex, hefty, multi-step process. First, there's discovery. How do you even find out the things that you didn't even know you wanted? How do you learn about things when you didn't even know you wanted them in the first place? Second, once you know you want something, how do you find it? So let's say you want a specific product. Where do you actually go to find out where you can find that product? Third, how do you evaluate it? So you might actually know you want something, you might actually have found it, but how do you evaluate whether or not it is the product that you want? And then fourth is what most people consider to be commerce, which is actually the act of purchasing. And then last is delivery. How does it actually end up to you? So e-commerce simply describes doing these 5 things online in contrast to doing them offline. So offline commerce, in very simple terms, is doing all of these things in an offline retail store. And then e-commerce describes doing them through a digital interface. Okay, cool. So who cares? The reason why this is important is the system by which we conduct commerce is vastly valuable and important to us for one simple reason, which is the cost of transacting is too high. So I did this presentation at the last Nano, so for all the Nano junkies, you cannot tell the answer, but can anyone here guess, who has not seen this before, how much we spend just in the United States on one of those 5 steps, namely delivery? So I'm not asking what the cost of all of commerce, just the cost of delivering products to us. Can anyone guess how much the US economy spends on that? Just delivery. What? 2 trillion is the guess. He's good. It's 1.5 trillion. That's a lot. That's almost 10% of the US economy. You can think about this as a 10% tax on your income just to deliver things to you. And that's not the entire cost of commerce. Commerce is vastly more than that. There's many, many different steps to it. So to put this in context, all of planet Earth spends $100 billion on cancer treatment every year. And just in the United States, to do one of the 5 steps of transaction is $1.5 trillion. And this has many, many different effects. Some very simple to understand ones. It makes it harder for entrepreneurs to start businesses. The adoption of new products takes longer because it's harder to find them. Things are way too expensive. We waste resources on just delivering things and finding things when they could be allocated to much more important things in our economy. So e-commerce, the reason why there was so much buzz around it 15, 20 years ago when it started is because its promise was to change this. By consolidating logistics, so having one distribution center instead of a bunch of different offline stores, they could dramatically lower the cost of delivery. By having no physical stores, we could dramatically lower the cost of maintaining these tiny little nodes as opposed to just delivering right to your home, and vastly better search. So if you think about how long it would take you to find shampoo by going to an offline store, compare that to just going on Amazon and finding it. But what happened? My argument to you is that e-commerce failed. So if you actually look at the adoption curve of e-commerce as a mechanism for conducting commerce, it completely failed in this vision. still less than 15% of all retail transactions occur online. And my argument for why this is because e-commerce actually is not cheaper because it fails in one very simple way where offline retail outperforms. So to understand this, let's go back to our somewhat simplified model of commerce and evaluate e-commerce relative to offline commerce. So first, search and purchasing. Search is clearly much better online. When you want something, if you actually go to Amazon.com, you're going to find it 100 times faster than you would if you're going to a retail store. And purchasing is clearly much better online. The cost of transaction is much simpler. Most people critique e-commerce on the grounds that evaluation and delivery are worse. But my argument to you is these are non-factors. Evaluation, everyone thought that there were going to be lots of goods that no one would purchase online, and that has been proven false. Think about Warby Parker. You actually buy glasses online, you do home try-on. Think about other products that people would never think you'd buy online, like furniture. Now people buy lots of furniture online. And delivery with Amazon, sub 24 hours often. The thing that e-commerce fails at is discovery. Discovery fucking sucks online. And to understand why, we're going to dive into some examples, but the future of e-commerce, the thing that needs to change if e-commerce is going to succeed is solving the problem of discovery on a digital interface. So one reason why discovery is terrible, if we just look at Staples, and they're a client, so hopefully they don't get too mad at me for this. But if you look at their website, it's basically just a massive catalog. There is nothing about Staples' online presence that makes me understand what actually I would be interested in. It's very hard for me to discover things I would like. It's just a big catalog. And even if you look at the innovators in this space, Nike or Amazon, it's still just a massive search engine for products. It's actually not easy to find things you did not know you wanted in the first place. Digital marketing is also terrible, right? So if you think about everyone has seen ads of products they've already bought, everyone's gotten emails that don't mean anything to them, and of course people have gotten weird SMS messages. All of this is because they don't have an understanding of who you are, right? It's not relevant. And I think Benedict Evans of Anderson Horowitz said this really well, which is all curation grows until it requires search, and all search grows until it requires curation. So to understand this visually, here's a simplified graph of this. The y-axis is how good search is, and the x-axis is how good curation is. And that blue line is the technology frontier for online transactions. So online, you can only have very good search or very good curation. So this is the trade-off that Benedict was talking about. If you think about Amazon, they have phenomenal search. You can find any product you want, but it's really hard to discover things that you didn't know you wanted on Amazon. Nothing comes close to an offline store in that. Warby Parker limits the scope of what you can buy, really great curation, but there's not much search. So offline commerce actually outperforms e-commerce in the world of curation. Nothing online has ever come close to the offline retail store in the context of finding things that you didn't know you wanted. So the future of e-commerce and what Bluecore is working on is breaking this continuum. For the first time, because we are actually transacting on a digital interface, we can actually have what we call personalization at massive scale, which means when you are transacting online and you are getting marketed to online, it should be completely tailored to who you are. It should be completely personalized, and that can actually happen at massive scale in a way that it could never happen offline, and it could never happen on online prior. So I don't have enough time to go into all the details of what Bluecore does, but broadly there are 3 big technology challenges that we're solving. One is eliminating complex data integrations on behalf of our clients, which are retailers, which means we consolidate all of the different disparate data systems that retailers use. Second, we use a lot of data science, I'll dive into this, to understand who customers are and what people would actually be interested in. And third is the more difficult technology problem of how do you actually enable personalization and changing marketing and changing online stores at massive scale. So diving into the latter 2 there, in terms of understanding who customers are, we use a broad set of different data science and machine learning methodologies to answer very simple questions, like what types of customers don't want to get any more emails? Or what types of customers would be interested in this new product we're about to merchandise, even though no one's seen it before? Or who prefers getting communicated to in certain channels versus other channels? Who prefers discounts and who doesn't? Data science for the first time can actually answer these questions, which fundamentally changes the way in which we would transact online and actually enables us to discover things we didn't know we wanted. Second is sort of personalizing all of your experiences. So this is something, I don't have a time to go into all of the different things that we do for our clients, but this is, I think, a nice one to go through. So for Reebok.com, before they were working with Bluecore, everyone saw the same landing page. So every single one of their millions and millions of consumers would go on the same page. What we enabled Reebok to do is go to a world where, depending on who you were and what type of consumer you were, you actually had a different landing experience. And that might seem somewhat trivial, but what that actually is moving Reebok in the direction of is supporting you discovering things you didn't know you wanted in the first place. So they're actually figuring out what types of products you'd be interested in if you are a training consumer. And this can end up being more tailored of an experience than even walking into a Reebok store. So where's Bluecore going next? So there's two big things that Bluecore is working on that I'm super excited about. The first is even better predictions about who customers are and what they care about, being able to answer things like who's ready to replenish a certain product. So before you even run out of it, imagine if the retailer could actually figure that out and actually market that to you or even just reorder it for you. And then figuring out what types of communications resonate with which customers. So figuring out the frequency and the magnitude of communications that make sense. And the one I'm even more excited about as a decisioning platform is actually taking decisioning away from just automating things for retailers and actually merging artificial intelligence into business decisions. So we're working very closely with a lot of our clients to get to a place where we can actually help them answer questions like, I have X amount of budget, and what's the easiest way for me to acquire new customers through it? Or which of my marketing campaigns need to be optimized? Or what next types of products should I be merchandising? So there's a lot of buzz around how do we bring AI to business decisions, and we're playing in that space in an exciting way, figuring out what that right balance of automation and actually facilitating better decisions on behalf of businesses. So in summary, the future of e-commerce is all about solving the problem of discovery, and that's what Bluecore is spending the next few years working on. Thank you. Do we have time for Q&A, or am I not allowed to do that? No one's here telling me to get off the stage. Does anyone have questions? Totally. So the question is, people, if I heard you correctly, people are changing their styles and preferences. How do we adapt to that, or how does the computer actually figure that out? It's a great question. So data science doesn't intend to change preferences insofar as it seeks to understand your preferences. So for example, the way it would work is if there is a trend happening and people are becoming more interested in certain things, we would catch that trend and actually try and facilitate it. But the other sort of thing you're bringing up that undergirds that question, which I think is important, is what's the balance between what humans do really well and what computers do really well? And I think we think a lot about that, which is a lot of people in the venture and technology community believe that soon AIs are going to automate away all business decisions. I actually don't believe that. I don't think anyone is going to be able to come up with as good marketing as Apple has or Nike has just by using an AI. So I think the question is, what's the right balance between a marketer or retailer's intuition and how a computer can help facilitate them? So I think a lot of the trend type stuff that you're talking about and being on the bleeding edge is still going to come from people.